Ra's al Ghul not win. Gotham needs its true hero.
Gotham Knights hurts my soul. It really does. This was one of my most anticipated games of the year. I was beyond hyped for this game, especially when I found out that it was made by the same team who made the Arkham Origins game, and I absolutely adore that game. When this game was first announced, I was intrigued by the premise that it would not be a Batman game, but a BatFamily game. A game that is comprised of four main characters: Nightwing, Robin, Red Hood, and Batgirl. My first thought when I heard this was four branching storylines that intertwine throughout the game, and it requires you to play through as all the characters in order to gain the full experience, like Resident Evil 2. Perhaps some of the characters have conflicts with each other. Maybe Robin feels like the group doesn't respect him because he's just a teenager. Perhaps Red Hood feels like an outsider because he doesn't fully believe criminals should be spared. And by the end of the storylines, they could all converge, so all the main characters have to work together in order to take out a much bigger bad guy. But no, none of what I just listed off are in the game. This game is one of the biggest examples of wasted potential in recent memory. The coolest stuff in the game is very fleeting and far between. Most of the character development and conflicts are optional.
Oh, okay.
You know, I was just saying to myself last week that I really miss the games that just have the character development as optional. My favorite moment in this entire game is this simple scene on a rooftop between Red Hood and Nightwing. Red Hood just wants to sit and appreciate how beautiful the city is. Nightwing, being the clown that he is, just wants to goof around. And it leads to a fake out where Red Hood pushes Nightwing and pretends to fall off. The scene ends where they're both just sitting and staring out at the city. The scene is so beautiful, but it's optional. In fact, 90% of the characters interacting with each other in the main story is via the communications, and that's it. Now I know what you're thinking, but that's what it's like in the Arkham series. In fact, the first time we ever meet the characters is in Arkham Knight. And while that's true, it is the same in the Arkham series, the difference being, in the Arkham series, every time they use the communications, it's to develop their characters. Take the first time they actually use the communications in Arkham Asylum.
Oracle, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What's up?
Joker's escaped custody. He's running free in Arkham.
Do you need anything? Is my dad still there?
Commissioner Gordon is safe. Joker's not far ahead. I'll stay in contact.
Right from that first interaction, you can already tell who Oracle's character is. She's somebody who cares about other people, particularly her family, and she's somebody who helps Batman. You've got 3 indications of her character from her first interaction, and it's just via the communications. Or like this moment in Arkham City, when Protocol 10 has just activated, and for the first time, Batman is thinking irrationally rather than rationally. Barbara tries to talk him down, but it's actually Alfred who manages to get through to him by reminding him what Batman stands for.
Oracle. Strange is launching missile strikes on Arkham City from Wonder Tower. You shut this place down. Joker's taken Talia. I'm going after them.
You can't. Hundreds will be killed. I need your help to stop the attack.
He'll kill Talia.
You need to think this through. Batman can't let all these people die.
My tracker's not activating. Reroute all Wayne Tech satellites to boost the signal.
I can't do that. I realize it is difficult, Sam. But you need to decide if one life is worth sacrificing to save 1,000.
Don't do this, Alfred.
Batman must save Gotham. I'm sorry, but deep down, you know I'm right.
Rocksteady was genius when it came to these communications moments, because they used them to expose the characters. In a moment where Batman is at his most vulnerable and being his most irrational, it's Alfred who knows exactly what Bruce would want in this moment rather than what Bruce is thinking at this moment. And it is the voice of Alfred that gets him to stand down and realize that Gotham needs Batman and Bruce needs to take a step back. Whereas here in Gotham Knights, the communications are used to point out the obvious and to give a new waypoint. They don't utilize them to highlight character flaws. They might use it to expand the lore occasionally, but they are very few and far between. Speaking of the lore, this game uses the Court of Owls storyline, which is a really cool storyline in the comics. When the first trailer dropped, the two thoughts I had were, bullshit, you will not have the balls to kill Batman in your first game, and the Court of Owls will be the coolest villains ever. After completing the game, I was impressed that they had the balls to kill Batman, and the Court of Owls suck. The Court of Owls in this game are such generic villains. They are literal mustache-twirling, evil maniacal maniacs with a predictable plan and an obvious villain twist. They spend a decent chunk of this game trying to figure out who the Court of Owls' head is.
And...
no fucking way. I never saw this coming. It's not like they telegraphed this way earlier into the game. Somewhere close to the beginning of the game, there is a scene where one of the heroes messages the character that you are playing, any character, and turns around and says, Alfred has wandered off and that you have to go and find out what Alfred is doing. When you get there, you do literally nothing. All that happens is that Alfred and Jacob Kane interact in one of the most obvious ways to telegraph a villain. I guess the point of this scene is to make us feel like Alfred is going to betray us at some point, but there's no way that they would have the balls to make Alfred such an evil guy. So it was so obvious that it was Jacob.
Colonel Kane. Sergeant Pennyworth.
But speaking of obvious villain twists, there was another villain twist in this game that was so obvious that I literally rolled my eyes so far into the back of my head I went blind. Every time that Talia al Ghul was on screen, I was screaming at the goddamn screen that this motherfucker is the goddamn villain. I suppose this is meant to be the main twist of the game. Oh no, Talia is the bad guy. But I feel like this game is relying too heavily on people's nostalgia for the Arkham franchise. Because in the Arkham series, Talia is a good guy, and we as the audience feel horrible when the twist in Arkham City happens and Talia dies.
Talia!
I'm sorry, beloved. I didn't know.
But that shit only works if you know how to utilize it properly, and this game does not. Not even close. Everything about her character, right from the beginning, just screams villain. The way she talks, the way she moves, the way she's being so ominous to the BatFamily. So much so that when, in my playthrough, Batgirl asks her, when we take out the head of the court, what do you get out of it? I literally banged my head against my controller and said, she gets Gotham, you fucking idiot.
I know you, Talia. You just want us to get rid of the voice so you can do whatever you want. What's your endgame here?
Jesus! Look at you two! World's greatest detectives!
So yeah, surprise! Talia's the villain. You spend probably an hour fighting the League, then she unleashes some man-bats for some reason. Then at the end, she resurrects Batman so you can fight him. Then you fight her, and then Batman sacrifices himself to stop everybody from having access to the Lazarus Pit. And remember what I said about the storylines converging? Yeah, no. You do this as any of the main four characters, and that's it. You don't even have to play as the other characters to unlock their unlockable costumes. There's a suit that you get as a part of finishing the game. Now you'd think that you'd have to finish as every character in order to unlock that outfit. But no, one playthrough as anyone will unlock the outfit. Even the dialogue only marginally changes. You'd think if they couldn't make 4 different storylines, they would at least make each character have different interactions with everyone you encounter. Like Red Hood, for instance. You might think that when Red Hood meets Harley Quinn of all people, he might have a major grudge, considering her ex literally murdered him. But no, their interaction is pretty tame. In fact, their interaction isn't much different from how Harley interacts with Batgirl. In fact, you could say that instead of having their own unique interactions, they just reuse the dialogue for all of the characters.
Wait a second. This means the Bats is dead. For real. Wait a second. This means the Bats is dead. For real?
The most pathetic example of this is Talia al Ghul, particularly in her final scene. In her last scene, any one of the Bat family will go and talk to Talia al Ghul, and she will have the same dialogue for 90% of it.
It's over. You're done.
Did you know, child? A Lazarus pit can be used for more than just saving people from the brink of death. It has many purposes.
And if you were listening carefully, she never actually refers to any of the characters by name. She only refers to them as child. And once you notice this, it's hard to unnotice it, because she's not the only character who does it. I'm sure that making this game was probably incredibly difficult. 4 characters is enough to blow anybody's mind, and I'm sure it was beyond annoying trying to make this all seem coherent. But stuff like this really stands out, and it detracts from the game as a whole. And that's not even talking about the gameplay. The gameplay between characters is identical, to say the least. Other than their special gliding ability, which in both games that I played between Batgirl and Red Hood are not nearly as effective as the Bat Cycle. However, the base characters have 2 moves, close range and long range. You can press down on the button to charge it up and make it more powerful, but the difference is minimal. The stealth in this game is laughable. It would most often have the stealth as an optional side objective for the main mission, and 90% of the time it wouldn't even be necessary, because you could clear the room by just engaging in full explosive combat, and it would save you so much time.
This is not going to be pretty.
Now, I'm not trying to compare this to the Arkham games, because the creators, everybody involved with this game has said it's not an Arkham game, even though it has clearly taken a lot of its inspiration from the Arkham games. But when it comes to stealth, the Arkham games are the pinnacle. Most games these days base all of their stealth sections on the Arkham games mechanics, because games like the Arkham series would give you a variety of different ways to take down the thugs. You'd have different gadgets, you'd have different abilities, you'd have so many ways just to take down one thug that you would literally spend hours just testing them out.
You don't want to do this, Freeze.
The fight with Mr. Freeze is the perfect example of how to use this mechanic, because Mr. Freeze is the most adaptable villain that we ever face. He learns from our strategies. We can never use the same takedown twice, otherwise he will know where we're coming from. But in Gotham Knights, there's no such adaptability. There is only 2 moves that we have, 1 gadget, and that's it. We don't have as much variety, so therefore we spend 100% of the game just doing the same thing over and over again, and it gets boring. So in the end, it fails as a Batman game. In fact, it fails as a BatFamily game because it doesn't justify why it has 4 main characters instead of just having 1 main character throughout the entire game. And just coming off of Arkham Knight, nearly 7 years ago, it really pales in comparison to the Arkham series, and that is why Gotham Knights hurts my soul.
It's done. Gotham is safe.
Thank you, Bruce. For everything.
Goodbye, Jim.